Welcome to the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is Lynn Hawkins. Lynn is on a mission to bring more success to women-owned, healthy lifestyle small businesses, help grow more social enterprise businesses, and do more good in the world. Lynn is a partner and the program director for Hippocrates Docs and the Just One Thing for Health programming. Her experience in digital marketing and the health and wellness industry allows her the ability to be in her passion and purpose to help health practitioners grow business and gain more exposure in the marketplace. Stick around. I want to introduce her to you. Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, Nancy. I'm great. Thanks. It's so great to be here with you today.
I'm so happy to have you on this podcast as well. I think that you have some information that our viewers will be glad to know, and we will surely share all the information, how to get to your website, your podcast, because you have one of your own, and things of that nature when we air this episode.
Awesome.
So to begin with, how did you come to veganism?
Well, that's a 67-year long story. Maybe 65, 66. But anyway, yes, a lot of years that I was in that void of not knowing about diet, how much diet impacted your lifestyle. My career was in commercial real estate lending for almost 35 years. And I had a dual career for 20 plus years as a fitness professional. So I was certified to teach classes and to share information. And for some reason, that food would come in there. But it was not something that they taught us in those certification classes. And I was an athlete. I was an amateur bodybuilder. I was a runner. I can't tell you how many 10Ks and half marathons and only 2 marathons, but a mini triathlon, a number of 100-mile bike rides,
Wow.
a dozen and, hundreds in between. Real quick, I remember coming home one day, my son was calling me and he was like, "Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all day." I was like, "I was on a bike ride." It's like, I just finished riding 75 miles. And he was like, "Mom, people don't even drive 75 miles in a day. What are you doing?" But you know where your heart is when it's things like that you do and they feel right and they just work out that way. And I was in my late 50s when I had a knee injury. And that knee injury sidelined me from everything. I was in a total daze and happened to get connected with a naturopathic doctor who said, "I know exactly what's with you." It's like, "What's with this knee?" So I told her about the surgery and she's like, "I know," because I complained about living in a fog. I couldn't see clearly. I was a space cadet. And she said, "Here's what I want you to do. Go on this." I told her I love salads because she asked me, "Well, what are you eating?" And I was like, "Salads mostly," but she's like, "Cut out everything. Salads, if that's what you want, raw food, the good stuff, greeny stuff, all colors for 2 weeks, and then come back to me." Man, Nancy, not only could I see more clearly, I could see colors, I could hear more clearly. I mean, it was like the space cadet got up and said, "Goodbye, I'm done now," and went away. And I was back to feeling like myself, being like myself, but my knee still had some issues. And I dealt with those issues for a decade, and here I am today. It's caused some other things. So I've been, dealing with balance and just overall core strength. And one of the things that I learned in doing and helping to create one of the programs with Hippocrates Docs was that certain foods helped with certain things. All the foods were vegetables and fruits and whole plant foods. And I thought, maybe that's the answer. And starting to look more closely to that, I started being able, and I say that very intentionally, I felt like I was able to let go of my thinking and my desire to have food, to have meat in my diet. And then I cut out, I cut out red meat a long time ago, but then I cut out chicken and everything else. Because I was a bacon lover. I have to admit, I'm a reformed bacon person. And I know what others feel like now when they say that same thing. Um, but today I look at what I'm doing and having finally resolved to look at meat a different way. And I think you and I were talking about it earlier, and that is it's the flesh of a dead animal. And doesn't matter how you cook it, how you season it, it's still the same in the beginning and the end. And you're putting that in your body. And that's not really what it was made for. Plants, however, I'm a spiritual person. I believe that the earth was created to provide us with our nutrients the way that, spiritual says, and it has worked. I mean, it's like those are the things that you look at and do and say, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? Well, we don't do because we don't know. And when we know, we at least do better. And it's been a journey. It's been an amazing journey. And now I am willing to, and I'll go back to that in a minute too. I'm willing to say that I am a vegan. I'll tell you, for a long time, I was like, I'm not going to be a vegan because I had friends who said that they were vegans, yet they were, 50, 100 pounds overweight. I couldn't understand that. How are you eating like this? And so I felt more comfortable in the vegetarian space, in the pescatarian space. And it wasn't until I really got introduced to and I'd always been in the climate, recycling and doing my part as far as my footprint. But the animals, learning about how these animals are treated, learning about how they cut down the rainforest. And, a lot of people have this belief that it's for the vegetables to be grown, but it's for the animals to be farmed. It's not for vegetable agriculture. It's for the animals. And once the animals get on those lands, it's like done for who knows how long before that land can be regenerated for a better use. And being in commercial real estate, I always had this thing in the back of my mind. We talk about and we do highest and best use for properties, right? We look at the earth and to see if it's able to support building something. And I thought, wow, the farms do the same thing, and they till the soil, they turn the soil, they move crops around so that they can take advantage of the different nutrients that have been left by one crop for the benefit of another. Yet when you're raising animals like that in herds and, to the extent of the numbers, it's all for, the money of it all versus really feeding people health. It really tipped the scales for me. And I know that, also the healthcare industry, I got into that an awful lot, looking at what we are in, and I call a ill care, a sick care industry. And if we would shift to being more focused on a real health care of prevention and reversal versus having people come in with these illnesses and really feel like they're on a hamster wheel. I've got to take this pill every day for the rest of my life and that kind of thing. That's not how we were made to live life. And that's what I've come to believe and speak to today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just when you talk about the land for the animals, and then growing vegetables, but like the soy, when they're growing it for the animals, and these other grains that could be feeding people who are hungry instead. And where the animals are, that soil, that land gets degraded over and over again, especially if it's near a slaughter where, all of the body fluids and all the things that they do to the animals get sprayed into the air, seeps into the water, seeps into the soil. So they are really destroying the land that they're living on, but also making it impossible for us to use that land to actually feed ourselves healthy food.
You're
And
right.
it's crazy. And when it comes to, you said sick care, ill care, I think that doctors need to, hook up with Neil Bernard, Michael Greger, and the rest of them to learn more about food in our own bodies and promote that more, instead of just, as soon as you go into the office, go, here's a prescription for a pill.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, let's do something a little bit more creative and a little bit more productive and advantageous for the person, and say, let's look at your diet. Let's change some things and see how you do. And then you can take the medicines that people are taking and adjust them as needed. Things like that.
I totally agree. I think the Hippocrates said it best back in, ancient Greece, that we would be using food as medicine, and really admonishing us to use food as our medicine, and let our medicine be our food. And we are really attempting to come back to the beginning and really adopt that kind of thinking, because that is true. And when we think about it, our ancestors, we may have even had people in our families who were the healers back in the day before prescriptions were even thought about, who said, let me get this herb and let me get this thing and let me put this piece of vegetable in here and make this. Those were the days, when we could do things that, and we sought out those healers, and we became those healers. And we've gotten indoctrinated to a new way of thinking about how we treat ourselves that does not benefit us, but it benefits those who have the purse strings, that their purses keep getting more and more full, and we keep suffering. And it has to change. I often talk about being this thing being the Titanic, and we're not running up against a glacier. As a matter of fact, we are steadily turning the ship. It's going to be a long time turning, because they're huge coffers that they have. But, don't be fooled either, because they're getting the message. They're figuring out how they can get into this market, and they're buying the mom and pops who have made the gluten-free, vegan, this and that, and they're buying those companies and continuing the product line. But then you have to wonder, are they making it in the same place that they're making the bacon? Are they making it in the same place that they're making the the GMO type crackers and chips and everything else? And so, how are they degrading what we're coming into to help ourselves? And we have to become conscious of that. And how do you become conscious of it? Is when you hear somebody speaking to it. But even more than that, you get an idea about what you can do about it. And there are some things. One of the things that I am most proud of is the Hippocrates Docs program, Just One Thing for Health. The 12-week email series that has so much information. And this is where I got to meet those doctors, Dr. Esselstyn and Neil Barnard and Joel Furman and, just all of them. We call them the 7 original heroes. And while there are many more, these guys have gotten in there and have lobbied for new legislation They've actually created Dr. Barnard's Medical Center. He has a nutritionist on staff. All of his staff is vegan. And all that they do with patients, they have patients coming in from all over the world to work with him and his staff, because we are beginning to understand, and hopefully others will learn from this, that what we put in our bodies has the ability to either kill us, create disease in us, support the disease that's already in us, that we could, in fact, dissolve. I'll put it that way. Reverse and dissolve, and it's gone. You know, I talked to Dr. Goldner, who cured herself of lupus. And then I'm hearing so many others have done that. And how many doctors think still today that lupus is an incurable disease? You know, so I am very in tune with and love what Hippocrates docs and Just One Thing have evolved to in the new focus of wedidit.health. Because there are a lot of vegans, and one of my friends, Dr. Teher, talks about he used to be a junk food vegan. And I'm thinking that's what my friends were. You know, this doesn't have this and it doesn't have that, and it's no meat stuff in it, but it's totally junk food. The whole plant part was being missed. And so I'm like whole food, plant-based, vegan. That's me. And I'm doing so much better today because I'm taking more of an interest in learning how to cook the foods, what foods go best together, one thing or the other. And that's making it more fun for me. I had to find my staples. I had to find what I could go to on a consistent basis that was working. And now that I've got that down, it's like it opened up the door. Okay, let's see what's next. And so been exciting.
Yeah. And I just want to say that I think that we're at a point that things are changing. However, in order to make it change more rapidly, that perhaps everyone needs to take care of themselves. And by that, I mean is when you go to a doctor, yes, they have medical education. And yes, they might be able to help you, but they are not the, you know, the whatever they say goes per se, because you have to look out for yourselves, especially if you have doctors who are not incorporating plant-based vegan diets into people's health plan, or they're just, you come into the office, and I've had this happen. Somebody doesn't know me, and all of a sudden, because I said I was feeling this or that, they go, okay, I got a prescription for you. And I'm like, I don't want that. You know, I want to address the problem. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. I don't want to, you know, bleed through the Band-Aid. I want to know what the cause is, and let's see what cures that, instead of just putting a bandage over it and say, okay, go out into the world and just keep buying this medicine and you'll just keep bleeding, but at least we got a Band-Aid over it. Makes no sense.
And I'm a perfect example of that. January 7th, 2020, I fell. It was a bad fall. I ended up in the emergency room. I broke my wrist in 3 places. I had a mild concussion. And surgery the following week. I now live with a plate and 9 screws in my wrist. And I remember, you know, after it all, I was like, I'm really serious about getting this anesthesia out of me. But I'm even more curious to see what my recovery is going to look like. And I went back to the doctor in 4 weeks, and he was totally blown away by the progress. I could do all of this in 4 weeks. And he was like, that's almost unheard of. What are you doing? And I said, it's got to be my plant-based diet. You know, and I'm doing the little exercises that you're telling me. But, you know, if this is unusual, then that's what's happening.
There you go.
Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And yeah, that stuck with me. And you know, I've experienced that to understand how it is that some people are reluctant to look at change. Because I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I run a visibility and impact digital marketing firm supporting healthpreneurs. And part of that came out of, my desire to get myself out there. And as a certified hypnotherapist, I'm always considering what's going on in a person's head. What's going on in my own head? That's where I started, right? And the resistance to change really is because, we're working with like the tree trunk of a redwood tree, huge, right? And we all know that they have those rings that are built on each other. And that's what happens in our brains. We've had years, decades of indoctrination about fast food and going and getting your, I won't call names, but I've got a lot of names that I could call. And, it's so delicious and you want to come back. Well, I wonder how many people know that Big Food did a 10-year study around the foods, creating the foods that would make people come back so that they could spend more money. And it's called the Bliss Point. Google it, read the study. I was angry around it. But they did that study for themselves to find out how they could make people come back and buy the McMuffins and the, you know, KFCs and the, whole 9 yards, because they knew that there was a combination of sugar and oil and salt that combined, and add cheese, which is a whole nother area of, addiction
Right.
that can come out. And if all of this stuff has cheese on it, then you just compound it with the sugar and the salt and the oil, because that's the stuff. And if they're animal byproducts that are making all of that stuff, which there are, except for maybe the salt and the sugar, you've got that's a combination of you training your body that you want this stuff. And your body is saying, well, I can tolerate it for I don't know how long, but at some point it's going to tell you I can't tolerate it anymore. And we have at that point become numb to understanding what our bodies are trying to tell us.
Yeah.
And
That
it's an awakening process. But
that's
once
what
you're awake and you start doing these things, releasing excess weight, feeling better, thinking better, seeing better, hearing better. My hair started darkening up a little bit.
and that's what I say to my partner is like, see what they're every television commercial, what are they promoting in these animal commercials, where they're offering KFC or burgers or whatever. Sauce, cheese. That's what you see. Sauce and cheese. And what did they do? Like you said, as stated in that study, they
Sugar.
put all of that stuff in there because your body gets addicted to it. And that's how you come back.
Yep.
They don't really care about your health or if you're going to live for however many years. They just care that you come back and buy their product, even though it's poisoning you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's sad. Can you tell me about how does one get in touch? You have a program, the Hippocrates Docs and the Just One Thing for Health programming. Can you talk about that and how people can interact with you or reach out to you for those projects?
I have to first say that I am in such gratitude to Peter Goldstein, who was the visionary who saw this. And I was fortunate enough to co-create it with him. And it's a series of emails that actually share information in bits and pieces. And if you want more, you click through to the website, and there is so much more, including recipes. And these are doctors, these are cardiologists and internists and, medical professionals who are saying, I am a vegan. I am for whole food, plant-based diet and lifestyle. And I speak to my clients about this. And Dr. Barnard's center, having the nutritionist on staff, when you start working with the doctor, the next person that you work with is the nutritionist. And they talk to you about this type of education. And it's free. You just sign up for the email series. You can go to just the number one thing, the number 4 health, just one thing for health.com, and sign up and get in. The series starts with great information about overall health and heart health. And then you go into the emails that are easily consumable. They come to you once a week so that you can spend the week in that challenge. It's a challenge-based email. It challenges you to do just one thing every week to improve your health. And in doing so, see what happens around you as well.
That is great program. It's an easy program because you said you're only challenging them to one thing. And it also helps in a manner because it's kind of supporting what you want to do. And it's a reminder as well. So I think that is fabulous. And kudos to you and Peter for putting that together. And I thank you so very much for being on the Vegan Pulse. And we'll talk again soon.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Nancy.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on another Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Remember, like us on Facebook, check out our website, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.